You know, it's been a while since I've done a teen edition, so I thought why not do another one for you guys. After all, it is one of the more popular editions of Setup Wars. So with that said, welcome to Setup Wars episode 272, Teen Edition. It's time to take a look at some of these awesome teen setups so we can dive a little bit inside. But yeah, with that said, if you guys are a teen watching this video and you want to submit and show off your awesome setup on the channel, then make sure to watch the video link down below. But with that said, sit back and relax. Because you know what time it is. Before we continue, I'm going to give a huge thanks to Dream Controllers for sponsoring today's video. Dream Controllers offers a nice collection of custom modded controllers for practically any console out there, from the Nintendo Switch to the Xbox Series X and even the PS5. You can either pick from their designer's choice, signature designs, or limited edition categories, but if you're a fan of anime or superheroes and villains, then I recommend checking out those instead. My personal favorite is the anime section, as they have some really nice Dragon Ball designs for me. I also like the quality of the paint job. It's done really well and the surface is very smooth. They also offer the option of modding the controllers by adding quick triggers in the back, which are compatible with a lot of first-person shooter games. But right now, you guys can get free shipping on all orders over $49, plus 10% off using my code listed down below. You can also do installments using Affirm. So, kicking off the episode, we have Jaime from Florida and his super cozy dual monitor setup. It took him a total of 6 months to complete for the purpose of gaming and editing. We got dual 24-inch curved monitors that he mounted to the mom desk with the pull-out side table. Honestly, if you're not going to use a side table for anything, it's better to just remove it altogether to free up additional space. Looks like we do have a white on black color scheme, which he stayed consistent with by going with white peripherals and a white extended mouse pad. He doesn't use any speakers with the setup, but he does own a pair of Astro A10s that he stores under the desk when not in use. One thing I've noticed about the setup is that it's a bit too bland in terms of personality. There's really nothing that separates it from the crowd. The only cool thing about the setup that gives it a unique factor is the custom-made RGB cloud that he stuck to the ceiling of his room. Well, technically, it's not even a part of the setup. And unlike the one we saw from episode 270, this one has much better execution. You can't see any of the LED strips inside the clouds, and I think this one turned out much better. When you think about it, it feels like this is the new and cool way of doing RGB strips on your ceiling now. Powering the setup is a custom PC inside the Thermaltake S100. We got the Ryzen 7 3700X and an MSI 1660 Ti with some nice cable extensions. Overall, it's a very nice gaming setup with perfectly executed RGB clouds. I just wish you did something really cool or unique to personalize your own gaming setup. Thank you, Jaime, for starting out the show. Up next is Justus from Germany, bringing justice to all teen setups. It took Justus a total of 3 years to get the setup to this point for the purpose of gaming, schoolwork, and overall productivity. We got a beautiful corner desk layout with a LifeX beam attached underneath to give it a nice underglow. I think it came out nice. Above that, we got triple 27-inch monitors all hooked up against the wall, and since he's using a corner desk, he's able to take advantage of the extra space by comfortably putting his PC on the other side without having it interfering with any of the displays. For peripherals, we got the Corsair K95 Platinum paired with a dark core RGB Pearl mouse, and there are cutouts in the desk to pass through the cables. Very nice. In fact, he made cutouts for all the cables in the back, including his speakers that he laid sideways. No complaints when it comes to the rest of the cable management. I can see everything is nicely handled with the cable rack in the back, and even kept the sub off the ground by mounting it underneath the desk. Nicely done. Aside from the speakers, he does own a Corsair Virtuoso RGB headset that he keeps right next to his custom-built PC. We got an i7 10700K in here paired with an MSI Gaming X Trio, but there are some issues with the build that I just noticed. First off, you only have one exhaust fan. The fans you put up top are facing backwards, so they are set as intake instead of exhaust. I would strongly recommend flipping those over to neutralize the air pressure inside your case. Secondly, it would be a better idea to route the AIO pump USB cable towards the top left and through the small cutout where your EPS cables are going through, instead of having it go through the front. And lastly, I would kind of just pull on the GPU cables from the back of your case so that you don't have all that excess spilling from the front. But other than that, I really do like the approach you took with this corner desk layout and the LifeX beam integration with the desk. Thank you, Justus, for sharing this with us. Coming in at number 3 is our setup spotlight for the episode. And in case you guys missed it, this is a new segment in Setup Wars where I will focus on a setup that can use some tips to improve. Senaajit from India built this setup in the span of 5 months to do editing, schoolwork, along with gaming and streaming. We have a dual 27-inch monitor setup that's mounted against the desk, and below that we got the K55 keyboard and a G502 Hero with double stacked mouse pads. Already I have some recommendations, so let's start with the peripherals. By the way, if you guys want to play along, pause the video right here and go in the comment section and post your recommendations and tips that you have for this setup. Then you can watch the video and see if we're both on the same page. I think it's a pretty cool way to test your knowledge of the show and also see how well you know me. So one way to better manage the wires is by flipping your mouse pad sideways so that the cable can be hidden easily underneath the keyboard. You can also do the same thing for your mouse if you want to, and just group up all the wires together and run it straight across the desk. This way it looks a lot cleaner instead of having 3 separate cables going across the desk. Also, you'll be able to replace the extra wide raceway with something a lot smaller. The next thing I noticed is that your headset is sitting on an RGB stand, and because of this you have 2 separate cables running across the desk, one for the headset and one for the stand. Mounting the headset under the desk and getting rid of the stand altogether will clean up the surface a lot, but if you do want to keep the stand, then I would at least move it towards the back, that way you can hide the cables behind the desk. Alright, so moving on to the microphone placement. I'm not really sure why you went with a traditional boom arm in the back. The monitors prevent you from extending the mic towards you. What you need is a low profile boom arm. These are much lower to the table, allowing you to easily extend them out and underneath the monitors. This way you're not just able to have convenient access to your microphone, but you can also route the cable behind the desk and into the back of your PC. Speaking of which, you do technically have extra space to keep it on the desk if you really want to, but I do like that you at least put it on a caddy. This keeps the PC off the ground so it doesn't collect as much dust or dirt, but more importantly, you can move it around easily if you ever need to reach the back. Also, a quick little recommendation if you want a place to store your controller and keep it off the desk. You can actually mount this super cheap controller stand underneath the table. This is also compatible with all controllers and even headphones. Finally, I feel like the laptop could use a stand as well, maybe something to tilt it at a more comfortable angle so it's easier to use. You can either find a gas-powered mount for lots of flexibility or simply buy a nice looking stand to store it if you're not working from it. But yeah, lots of recommendations and tips for this setup to improve. I wonder if you guys have any additional things to add. I'll definitely be reading the comment section and liking all the good recommendations I see. Thank you Senaajit for coming on the show. If you ever do improve the setup, feel free to submit again. Remember a few episodes ago when we checked out a setup that had the entire wall covered with these 3D art panels, and I mentioned that is probably the best way to integrate these in a setup? Well, I stand corrected because Matt from California actually built a really nice setup using only 8 panels. I guess if you're able to perfectly align the panels with the length of your desk and find some way to close off the top, then it actually turns out really nice. In Matt's case, you went with a typical Linman and Alex combo with a lag shelf up top to sandwich the panels. Setup's purpose is for gaming, making music, and watching anime. We got dual 27-inch MSI monitors hooked up to the desk, and then for peripherals, we got the TechWare Phantom 87 keyboard paired with a glorious Model O. I noticed that you don't have any speakers and you asked for some recommendations in the notes. Well, if you're on a super tight budget, I do recommend going with the Logitech Z200s, but get them in white so it matches your setup's color scheme. The Creative Pebbles are also a really good alternative if you want something for less than 25 bucks. But it is nice to see that you at least own a gaming headset. Cables are managed really nicely. I can see that you put the effort to mount your power strips and the bricks underneath your desk along with a cable box. And then finally, we got the custom PC packing the K9 processor. Oh wait, that's the wrong PC. We actually got the Ryzen 7 2700X and an MSI GTX 1660 built inside the iQOO 220T case. Such a clean build and setup. Thank you, Matt, for sharing this with us. Wrapping up the episode is quite possibly one of the cleanest, if not the cleanest setup I have seen from a teen on the show. Niels from Denmark built this very impressive setup over the span of 5 years. This means he literally started when he was 9 years old. That is actually insane. I just have to stop for a second and say that I absolutely love the presentation here. There is nothing super flashy or over the top about this setup, yet it's spectacular at the same time. The setup wasn't built just for gaming. In fact, he does a lot of editing videos and photos on here, along with watching YouTube videos. We got a dual stacked monitor setup with a 27-inch as the main and a 24-inch up top as an overhead. Below that, we got a custom painted Keychron K6 with glorious Panda switches and the glorious Model D mouse. Nice combo. Fun fact, he actually custom made those, putting keycaps by sanding down the paint from the sides for the WASD keys. Even though he had plenty of space for the speakers, he made the smart decision to mount them directly against the wall, which not only looks amazing, but they are also at ear level. What Niels did with the hexagon panels up there is once again a great reminder that it's all about creativity. You can have a pile of crap smeared across your wall, but if you create a nice design out of it, it will look awesome in your setup. I guess what I'm trying to say is don't focus too much on how ordinary or boring something is, but instead try and create something cool or unique out of it. Niels even added some RGB strips behind the panels to spice it up a bit with some lighting, and the Alexa integration is honestly the icing on the cake. I love it.
Alexa, turn on my PC.
As expected, cable management is practically flawless. I do see a few raceways covering the cables running down the wall, and everything underneath the desk is tucked away neatly in a few Signum racks. He stayed very consistent to the neutral color scheme all throughout the setup, all the way to the custom PC that's sitting on an Alex unit. We got the Ryzen 7 3700X with 32 gigs of RAM and the Gigabyte RTX 2070 Super. A superb setup with a bit of creativity involved. Thank you, Niels, for sharing this masterpiece with us. As a reminder, you guys can always pick up a cheap Windows CD key for less than $15. Just click on my link below and use the code TS20 for an extra 20% off. Once you get your CD key, just visit the activation settings in Windows and change your product key. It's that simple. And that will do for today's video. As always, make sure you guys comment below. Let me know which of these setups was your absolute favorite and maybe a sentence or two on why. If you guys are enjoying Setup Wars, as always, make sure to toss a like before you leave, as it does help out the algorithm gods. And if you're new here, consider subscribing because I do host Setup Wars every single Monday. Thank you so much for watching. I love you beautiful, beautiful cheeks, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.